Check this thing out. It's for your muscles, but it looks like a freaking transformer. Anyway. So no one told you life was going to be this way. Yeah. Bad jokes and 90s references aside, no one actually teaches you about this stuff in school. And it's likely that you didn't learn it from your parents because, well, they probably didn't learn it in school. So what are they teaching in schools anyway? Oh, yeah, that. But that's okay because today, class is in session. Ow. In this video, we're talking about Roth IRAs, what they are, and if they're the best way for you to save for retirement. Quick disclaimer before we get started. Well, I did go to school for finance. I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. It is for educational purposes only. Any investment decisions you make are your own, so please do your own research. So for starters, what is a Roth IRA? Well, IRA stands for Individual Retirement Account, and it is a tax advantage saving vehicle. What this means in practical terms is if you put money in, there's some sort of tax benefit. There are many different types of tax advantage accounts, but in the case of a Roth IRA, you pay taxes on that money when you first get it, just like you normally would with anything else. Then you put it into a Roth IRA, and all of the earnings that you get over time, you can withdraw tax-free in retirement. Tax-free withdrawals is a pretty sweet deal. It's important to note that a Roth IRA is not in and of itself an investment. You can think of it as more of like a vessel or a pot that you can put your money into. Once your money is in that pot, then you can make any investments you want, like buying stocks of Apple or buying into an S&P 500 index fund. To illustrate the tax advantages, we're going to take a look at a normal taxable brokerage account and a Roth IRA so we can compare the two. Let's say you invest $350 a month into a taxable brokerage and a Roth IRA. Now, remember, the Roth IRA the income that you're putting into a Roth IRA has already been taxed. So both of these are starting out on an equal playing field. We're going to take this money and invest it into an S&P 500 index fund. We're going to assume an 8% interest rate, and this is going to be over a 40-year period of time. After 40 years, we'll have $1.1 million. $960,000 of that will be due to compound interest. So beyond the scope of this video, but compound interest is absolutely incredible. $1.1 million is sweet, except with the taxable brokerage account, that money is not all yours. A portion of that is going to go to your favorite uncle, Uncle Sam, in taxes. So we need to take the earnings, the $960,000, and figure out how much we're actually going to have to pay in taxes. Fair warning, this is going to be an oversimplification to illustrate the point, but we're going to assume a 20% long-term capital gains tax, and we're going to assume that you cashed in all that money at once. And if you were to do that, you would owe about $192,000 in taxes, which I should point out is far better than if you were paying income taxes. That is the benefit of long-term capital gains. But nevertheless, that is $192,000 that is no longer in your pocket. And that's, of course, assuming that long-term capital gains doesn't go up from 20% in 40 years. Whereas with the Roth IRA account, that's $192,000 that's still yours. I mean, that could be, depending on your income and your living situation, I mean, that could be 4 years of income if you're living on $40,000, $50,000 a year. Tax-free withdrawals are especially important considering we don't know what the tax rates are going to be like in the future, especially if we're looking at like a 40-year time horizon. It's just such a variable that we can't account for. I mean, tax rates could be lower, they could be higher, or they could be roughly the same. But having a Roth IRA with those tax-free withdrawals in the future kind of future-proofs you against any changes to the tax code. Because the benefit of tax-free withdrawals is so powerful, in my opinion, the only time that it really makes sense to not contribute to a Roth IRA is if your employer offers 401k matching. If that's the case, you should always take the maximum amount that they'll match. You can think of this as guaranteed return on your income. So, for example, my employer will match 50% of my contributions up to 8% of my income. So that right there is a guaranteed 50% return on my money, which I couldn't find anywhere else. Now, That's going to vary depending on the employer. It could be far more than 50%, could be less. But no matter what, that's going to be guaranteed return. Even though the S&P has historically returned 7 to 8%, the S&P could return 2% for the next 10 years. We just don't know. So that guaranteed money should always be the priority. But I would only contribute to a 401k up to the maximum amount that your employer will match. Any remaining money that you have left over beyond that matching point, you should put into a Roth IRA. A final note on company matching. Some companies offer what's called a Roth 401k, which you can think of as a company-sponsored Roth IRA. They're not completely identical, but they're fairly similar in that they use after-tax contributions, and you can withdraw in retirement tax-free. So that's a really sweet deal if your employer offers those. Because Roth IRAs have such sweet and succulent tax advantages, the IRS puts limits on how much you can contribute each year, as well as income limitations. These limits are subject to change, but as of 2021, the contribution limit is $6,000 a year or $7,000 if you're 50 or older. The income limits are $140,000 a year for single filers and $208,000 a year for married filing jointly. These are both a slight increase from 2020's numbers. Keep in mind that these income limits are modified adjusted gross income and not your gross income. Another limit put on Roth IRAs is that you cannot contribute more than your earned income in a year. So this only applies if you make less than $6,000 a year or don't have any income at all. So for example, if you make $4,000 a year, you can only contribute $4,000 to a Roth IRA. So you've got all this tax-free money earning interest. When can you take it out and spend it? Dollar bills, y'all. It's definitely not fake money. Completely real $100 bills. Well, here is another benefit to Roth IRAs. You can withdraw your contributions at any time. And the reason being, you've already paid taxes on this money, so the IRS does not care if you take it out. The earnings, on the other hand, are a completely different story. If you try to withdraw money that's earned interest on those contributions before you're 59 and a half and have had that account open for 5 years or more, then you will be fined a 10% penalty and you'll have to pay income taxes on that money. So that money is only tax-free if you're 59 and a half and you've had the account open for at least 5 years. If you meet those requirements, your tax-free money awaits. Man, why did that not work out? Barring the exceptions I mentioned earlier, a Roth IRA should be the first place you go to save for retirement. Tax-free withdrawals eliminate the variability of tax rates and give you peace of mind that 100% of the money in that account is yours to keep in retirement. I hope you found this video useful, and if you did, please do me a favor and leave a comment down below and let me know if you're saving for retirement, and if you are, what type of retirement savings account are you using? If you're interested in learning more about personal finance, please consider subscribing to the channel for more. I post new videos every week. Thanks, and I will see you next time.